America's schools are an institution. The oldest ones are older than the U.S. itself. But if you look around today, it can feel like that institution is at a breaking point.
We don't want to lose them because they don't feel seen or supported.
There's a lot of stressors that kind of add up with teachers, and they can get burnt out.
This week on The Race, we're taking a deep dive on education, the challenges facing students and parents at every level.
It could be one of the most impactful moments of your life. The moment your application reaches the desk of an admissions officer at a college or university, maybe your dream school, and they make the decision whether you're in or you're not. So what does that decision process now look like with the Supreme Court banning affirmative action and some colleges ending legacy admissions? We're pulling back the curtain by talking to someone who knows firsthand.
Seconds.
As a former Dartmouth admissions officer, Michelle Hernandez knows what works on a college application.
Focus on one thing and go in depth. That's like the best hack I could say, is that be really amazing at something, whatever that something is.
She was a gatekeeper to one of the most selective schools in the country. Dartmouth lets just 6% of applicants in. Today she says she was part of a system that's flawed.
Sometimes it's subconscious, like, oh, that letter just seems lukewarm, but maybe it was just that that person didn't know how to write a recommendation letter and the student was great. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of talented kids that they miss.
She says as America reacts to the Supreme Court's decision to ban affirmative action, it's important to recognize the other hooks that are valued just as much by elite colleges that don't directly have to do with grades or SAT scores.
The orchestra is going to need a certain number of musicians. The dance department is going to need a certain number of dancers. So they're always looking for different things anyway.
She says as many as half of the spots in a class can be reserved for kids who fit certain criteria. She says in her experience, roughly 10% of spots could be reserved for students of color. But even more could be saved for students whose parents were alumni, known as legacies, with an even larger group being saved for students recruited to play sports. Hernandez says those other hooks beyond race are often not filled with minority students.
Going to an Ivy League school sets you on a better path, but why is that advantage only reserved for, like, wealthy white kids?
The U.S. Department of Education is currently investigating Harvard's acceptance of legacy students, looking into whether it violates the Federal Civil Rights Act. Two prestigious liberal arts colleges, Wesleyan in Connecticut and Occidental in California, announced they will no longer consider legacies.
I think the quick ways to make it fair would be get rid of legacy admissions, pay attention to income, and really make a commitment to giving full financial aid to anyone, let's say, who makes under $200,000.
Along with doing more to evaluate a student's socioeconomic background, Hernandez says prestigious schools need to change their recruiting tactics when it comes to diversity.
As an admissions officer, I visited high schools. The whole fall is visiting high schools. I usually visited a lot of private schools and prep schools. You could visit a lot more inner city schools and tell these kids, hey, you do have a chance to get in. Here's what we're looking for. Here's what you need to do.
Today, Michelle runs college prep company Top Tier Admissions, which tutors students to get on the right track to one day apply to the kind of institution she once worked at. Insight that parents are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars for.
Not everyone deserves to go to the hardest school in the country to get into, but they deserve to go to college, and we can at least make it more equitable and try to open up the pathways for them to get there. And that's kind of the American dream in a nutshell.
A dream, she says, is as much about grades as it is knowing how to navigate a system that isn't always fair. The competition to get into the best colleges and universities is as tough as ever, and that's changing the way some schools are trying to attract students, and in some cases it actually means cutting costs. On the campus of Colby Sawyer College in New Hampshire, they're calling it a tuition reset, a decision made last summer to reduce the so-called sticker price for an education.
So our tuition price at that point was $46,500, and we lowered it to $17,500. Yeah, very significant decline.
Colby Sawyer president Sue Stubner says the move is partially motivated by changing views on higher ed. In a March poll, more than 60% of young adults said college is not worth the money.
80% of families will dismiss an institution in their college search process solely based on the cost of attendance.
The skepticism is fueling tuition reset, policies at more than 60 colleges nationwide, according to research published late last year. That study defined a reset as reducing tuition by more than 5% in a given year.
I just wondered almost like why per se.
Destiny Cruz is Colby Sawyer's student body president.
It had a little bit of a setback on like student, I guess, attitude for a second, because a lot of students were like, wow, they're taking away my scholarships, because they're seeing, that their scholarship, like the paper that they get with, how much they're getting in scholarships, those numbers are a lot smaller.
Cruz said students came around as they saw their actual cost to attend, which stayed the same or in some cases was lower.
It's a little bit like funny money because there's typically not any dollars behind those $30,000 scholarships. It's truly just a discount.
It represents a shift away from what's known as the high price, high discount model. Under the old system, the school would advertise a high price, then through discounts and grants, many students would pay far less. Under the new system, the advertised price is generally the price.
Financial figures actually still work out just fine for Colby Sawyer in terms of providing enough revenue.
Colby Sawyer, like many schools, is trying to get ahead of a demographic cliff,
where there's just going to be fewer 18-year-olds graduating from high schools. We know that because we know who was born 18 years ago. We're looking at 7 to 10 years of far fewer high school students.
But not everyone agrees that this is the best path forward. Researchers said in December that there's no significant evidence of a long-term enrollment boost due to these policies. An editorial in Forbes put it more bluntly: schools will regret a tuition reset.
So I think the tuition reset, for me anyways, gave me a lot of hope.
The Colby Sawyer campus remains optimistic
that more people who initially maybe thought they couldn't apply because it was too much now feel a little more comfortable to apply.
The decision will help the school stand out in a competitive college market. Next on The Race, a closer look at the debate over school curriculum, everything from Black history to climate change. What kids learn in school has become a political battleground. The most high-profile example is likely in Florida right now. The State Board of Education approved new curriculum for African American studies last month. It includes language about slavery benefiting some African Americans because they learned useful skills.
I wasn't involved in it, but I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
Along with Florida, at least 5 other states announced they would review the official AP course on African American studies. Black leaders have called it a travesty.
It's insulting to imply that somehow that we had to be enslaved to get any kind of skills. This is just so counterfactual, and it's evil.
But not all curriculum fights are as emotionally charged as the ones over race. In Vermont, a group of teachers is pushing to make financial literacy a requirement for all students. Similar courses are required or will soon be required in 22 other states.
A majority of kids are really into this, how money works and what to be aware of and how it grows. When you start looking at investing and how money can grow for you without you working for it, and it's like they really get excited about that.
New Jersey is going through a curriculum shift of its own. Last year, schools in that state started requiring lessons about climate change. The idea was born in response to Superstorm Sandy. Some state leaders hope it will be a model for the nation.
Please log in and huddle in.
The basics of 7th grade.
Oh, Blaze, you're marked absent. Do you know that?
Haven't changed much.
So what's one solution that you read about? I often will ask middle school students, what do you really care about? And a lot of it is just, getting good grades, take a shot, having friends. So, the usual things. And that was...
But when the students in Steve Chinaski's Global Responsibility class dive into their projects,
all right, let's go to it.
The substance of their studies goes far beyond their Millburn, New Jersey middle school walls.
Cutting down the Amazon rainforest.
Here's Arthur Lewis.
Different chemicals going into the atmosphere. Me and Molly are both doing fecal bacteria.
Reminder, he's in 7th grade.
Like 30% of species of fish were overfished. Like, I didn't even know that.
The specifics of what they learn are not in stone.
Okay.
The overall subject is, this year, for the first year, every grade in every New Jersey school is required to cover climate.
How critical do you view this work?
I mean, in terms of planting the seeds to their knowledge, I think it's extremely important.
Climate change is often described as contentious, but the latest surveys from Yale show consensus. Barely a third of American adults discuss global warming with any regularity, but roughly 2/3 are worried about it. Roughly 3/4 believe it's happening, and 7 out of 9, including a wide majority in every state, believe schools should teach it. New Jersey is the first state to make that a mandate.
You can drop down and see all the standards.
Christy Young is Millburn's director of STEM. She and every instructor can see what's expected down to the grade.
Life sciences is only about 1/3 of the chart. Our eventual goal is to be able to make this public facing so that parents and community members can see. Students start to realize that everything's interconnected, just like climate change.
Few states have gone to New Jersey's level. Those who try otherwise often meet hard resistance. Legislators in Idaho spent years trying and failing to keep human-made climate change out of school curricula. Legislators in Ohio introduced an education reform bill this year that listed climate change as a, quote, controversial belief or policy. Pushback in New Jersey has been minimal.
Hurricane Sandy was maybe the big warning sign for us here. And I don't think it's a very big partisan issue either.
At Millburn Middle School, books with words like urgent and crisis stand on the shelves.
And go ahead, take a shot.
Teachers are told how climate should fit their curriculum, but the way they teach it is up to them.
If I was just a doomsday person coming in and saying, here are all these problems, now good luck, have fun in high school. That's a little bit of a problem. I try to be an optimist.
Recent discussion in education has centered on limiting what kids should be taught. In New Jersey, they're mandating the opposite. Last year, the governor signed a bill requiring AAPI history to be taught from K through 12. This year, they're incorporating climate.
You have to pick a thing.
It's all based on a willingness to redefine the basics. In 7th grade, in every grade.
I mean, Mr. Chinaski, he's always saying, like, we're the next generation, that we're going to save the earth. And I think that's true.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
More next on The Race. It's a tough time to be a teacher. Job satisfaction is at a 50-year low, and so is interest among high school and college students. It's why it's so difficult to fill so many open positions, and experts say there's really no easy solution.
With summer waning and kids soon to be filling classrooms, schools nationwide are desperately trying to fill open jobs. The U.S. Department of Education found nearly half of public schools started the previous year without a full teaching staff. In high poverty neighborhoods, 57% of schools had at least one teacher vacancy. Teachers say a fix starts with better pay.
When you even adjust for inflation, our teachers' salaries are stuck in the 90s.
Average starting teacher pay is just over $40,000 a year. Some school districts, like in San Diego, just agreed to give teachers a 10% raise.
I have goosebumps thinking about it, and this is a huge win for us.
But teachers say it's not just about money.
There's a lot of stressors that kind of add up with teachers, and they can get burnt out.
Across the country, shrinking budgets mean teachers are stuck paying for school supplies out of their own pockets.
Well over $500. That's probably on the lower end.
Parents near Kansas City, Missouri started an Adopt a Teacher fundraiser to help fill the gap.
We don't want to lose them because they don't feel seen or supported.
In Ohio, one district lost 75 staffers, including all 5 school psychologists.
All of this pressure, lack of time, concern for my safety, and feeling like I can't be the teacher that I want to be has made me dread coming to work every day.
Teachers also say they face a polarizing political climate in places like Florida, a state where lawmakers decide how to teach about sexuality, gender, and race issues. In some parts of the country, classes are being cut. Districts are recruiting teachers from outside the U.S., and states are having to adjust licensing rules. Ultimately, teachers say the biggest shortfall may be on learning.
There is nothing more important than ensuring that every single student has access to a high-quality public education, and that starts by having caring, qualified educators across the board.
Next on The Race, we'll show you the efforts to improve mental health in children. 2 out of every 5 American teenagers felt persistently sad or hopeless in 2021, according to federal data. About 1 in 5 made some sort of suicide plan. The data indicates there is a youth mental health crisis, and it may be getting worse despite big federal spending to fix it. The White House pledged almost $250 million toward youth mental health initiatives in January. Total mental health spending is in the billions.
I counted up yesterday 32 mental health programs that we have in this country. 32. We spend tens of billions of dollars. We're not making any progress. We're going the opposite way.
For now, many communities have to rely on a patchwork of programs to deliver mental health resources. And one of those programs, based in Connecticut, helps students navigate their feelings.
You can hear me, clap twice. Awesome.
Inside this second grade class, these students are about to bring some new characters to life.
I'm gonna place this right on the puppet's mouth.
Through a crash course in puppet making.
No 2 puppets are the same, so you end up with just amazing puppets every time.
But this puppet workshop isn't just about kids showing off their creativity. It's also about getting them to open up about their feelings. Teacher Erin Trudeau.
You're in the classroom every day, so what have you been seeing?
I definitely see a huge change in kids' attitudes and just their overall social emotional well-being since the pandemic.
A growing concern over that prompted soul-searching among mental health professionals at the University of Connecticut.
Think about the lost social skills, opportunities to practice using big emotions and understanding and naming emotions. So all those things were going to come in the door. In a door that's already stressed. Schools were already stressed.
So they came up with an idea, partnering with UConn's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry to create Feel Your Best Self, a series of free online YouTube videos hosted by a trio of puppets.
Anytime you need a break, just stop and smell the roses.
In the videos, the puppets help kids develop simple strategies for navigating big feelings.
Whatever we wanted to do needed to be something that could be taught in 3 steps. 3 simple steps, could be taught in less than 5 minutes, accessible to kids, appropriate for adults as well, and then could be packaged into something fun.
We have fun names for them now, like Shake Out the Yuck and Turning the Dial, but these are strategies and things that we can do throughout our life, and they're really important life skills to be able to, help us when we are out in the world.
The videos are available in both English and Spanish and come with curriculum that teachers can use in the classroom.
What if my puppet is excited? Yay!
And it's in the classroom that those strategies come to life, with puppet making workshops like this one.
You can feel the energy in the room and the joy from the kids, and that's something that's just so rewarding.
Second grader Kay Morales adores the Feel Your Best Self puppets and even created her own handmade book about them.
At home, I've been going to my mom's room and searching it up so I can go find more information about it.
What do you like about it? What have you learned about your feelings?
That sometimes when I get angry or frustrated, I use those so they can help me to calm down.
And it's not just kids that get into it.
Honestly, I was wicked excited about getting to make my puppet. it just makes you smile because it's kind of goofy. But I also think, just like with stuffed animals or like with pets, I think that people feel connected to being able to like talk to something other than themselves.
And I put some pom-poms for the headband on the hair.
We want the kids to take it home, show their siblings, show their caregivers, demonstrate these strategies, and hopefully kind of keep them in their back pocket.
We can be sisters.
So they can easily pull them out whenever they need to feel their best self.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this week for our look at education in America. Join us next week. I'm Chris Stewart, and this is The Race.